Hi everyone! If you're new to our channel, I'm Sarah. My husband Matt and I run this channel where we talk a lot about homesteading, our homesteading journey, and how we support our lifestyle by working from home, running our own laser engraving business and Etsy shop. Today I'm going to be showing you 3 different ways to preserve cucumbers by making pickles. I love making pickles, and like many people, the first couple times I tried canning pickles, I had a lot of trouble. I had mushy pickles, and the family recipes I tried to follow just never seemed to work out for me. So I was so excited when I came across the first way I'm going to share with you how to make pickles, which is making refrigerator pickles. Refrigerator pickles are great because they're easy, quick in my opinion, and they're delicious. The next recipe I'm going to share with you is how I can pickles. I have figured out over the years how to can pickles, and I'm going to share with you how I do it. Now I'm going to give you kind of a just disclaimer that how I do things for my family might not be how you choose to do things for your family. They may not be the safest methods, although I have been trying my hardest to learn more and more throughout the years what is considered safe and what is not considered safe. So I am trying, but if you see me doing anything that you wouldn't do when canning your pickles, leave a comment down below. I love to hear advice and tips, and anything that's going to make things healthier and safer for my family is greatly appreciated. The third way I'm going to be showing you how I'm preserving cucumbers by making pickles today is I am going to be fermenting pickles. Now, I have never fermented pickles. I have fermented sauerkraut, and I make my own sourdough bread, and that is as far as my fermenting skills have gone. Anything else is going to be completely new to me. Since this is my first real season fermenting, I went ahead and I purchased a book to kind of help me along the way, and it's Real Food Fermentation. I have been reading it, studying it, trying to understand why fermenting is important, why I would want to do it, and just how I can do it safely and easily. So I'm going to be fermenting my very first pickles today, and hopefully they turn out. So the reason I enjoy canning pickles is because I like to be able to put them up for a while. They'll last probably throughout the year, at least throughout the winter, if we don't eat them too fast. And I just like being able to provide for my family in the future. Although refrigerator pickles do last a while, and we've had them last months, they don't last as long as canning pickles and being able to put them on the shelf do. I am really excited for fermenting pickles, and the reason why is because fermenting items is supposed to help with your gut health, and I'm not sure how much I knew about that until I started really playing around with sourdough. And we've replaced almost all of our bread intake with sourdough bread, and I have noticed that my kids, myself, and my husband all seem to have healthier, better feeling guts. We don't complain as much about stomach aches, kind of having that bloated feeling that we were used to getting when we were eating regular bread. I feel like if sourdough helps that much, then fermenting vegetables is another great option. So the first thing I needed was a lot of pickles, and thankfully I planted a lot of cucumber plants this year. So these are cucumbers that I actually picked yesterday, intending to make pickles yesterday, and I didn't get around to it. Ideally, you want as fresh as you can get cucumbers within like a day or two of picking. I like to use the ones I've just picked, and this bowl I picked today. You want all your cucumbers to be the same size, and as you can see, I have a variety of sizes, and I'll show you in a little bit why. You're also going to need, if you are canning pickles, some type of water bath canner, which is a fancy word for saying big pot. You don't need the canning style I have here. You can use any big pot you've got. I do love canning, but there are a lot of tools and things that make it easier, and sometimes just not having these tools makes it easier to try a different method for making pickles. So I just have some of my canning tools out, as well as some jars that I will be using for my canning batch of pickles. Some of my favorite ingredients for all pickle recipes are onions, garlic, canning or pickling salt, peppercorns, and mustard seed. I'm going to be using white vinegar for 2 of my recipes, and I'm going to be using apple cider vinegar for 1 of the recipes. I also love to use fresh dill seed heads. Dill seeds like falling off. I really like to use this kind of like floured. I really like to use it fresh off the plant like this. If you don't have this, you can buy dill seed in a little jar. I just don't really care for the taste. I prefer to use the fresh stuff. And they also do sell mixes for pickles and stuff. I just think this is the best way to do it. I am using some wild grape leaves in all of my recipes today. I have some fresh ones, and if I run out, I have some frozen ones as well. The grape leaves aren't a necessity for your recipe, but I'll talk more about that in a little bit. Again, for fermenting, I've learned a lot from using a fermenting book. I've also learned a lot about safe canning techniques from the Ball cookbook, which has been really helpful for me. I pulled out some jars I'm going to be using today. Ideally, I like to use wide mouth jars for pickles, and the reason I like to use the wide mouth is just it's easier to stick the pickles in and take them out. Unfortunately, the only wide mouths I have are quarts, and I think I'm going to ferment in some quarts, but I am not going to do my canning, or I might do my, I don't know if I'm going to do my refrigerated pickles, which one I'm going to do them in yet, but we'll figure that out. So I ideally like to use the smaller jars. Unfortunately, I only have the regular mouth ones, but that's fine. It'll work. I do reuse my rings when I am canning, but if I do reuse them for canning, I make sure there's no rust on the inside. If there's rust, I just recycle these. I never reuse my flats when I am canning. I think it's just safest to buy some new flats, which is the lid, I think is what they call it. The lid. So regular mouth or wide mouth, depending on what you're using. Since it's my first season fermenting, I actually splurged and bought myself the Mason Tops Complete Fermentation Kit, and I'm really excited about it. It has these special tops, so I don't have to worry as much about burping my pickles every day. It also has the little glass tops to hold down the pickles in the jar. So I'm really excited to finally get to use some of this. I think I bought it at least 6 months ago because I was so excited that I'm gonna finally ferment this year. So the first step, regardless of what kind of pickles I'm making, is the same. I need to wash all my ingredients, including my pickles, and then I'm going to cut off both ends. I cut off the stem end because I don't like to eat it. I also cut off the blossom end. The part where the blossom is connected to the cucumber puts enzymes in the cucumber that will actually make it mushy. So I do cut off just a little bit of this, even if I'm pickling whole or sliced. So I'm gonna take that off and finish washing my last pickle. Cucumber, it's cucumber. So that first step, I'm cutting off both ends of my cucumbers. And what I'm gonna do right now is I am going to sort them by size. I know this seems silly, but I want a variety of pickles. I want whole little pickles. I would like some sliced pickles, and I would like some pickle spears. So if I do it this way, I can have a variety. The key for pickle recipes isn't to change the recipe based on what you're making. It's that everything in your container is the same size. And I cut off both ends on all the pickles. I kind of arranged them by size just to give myself an idea so I know that I have the right sizes per jars. I'm setting aside some whole that I want to use to ferment, and then the rest of these I'm going to either cut into slices or spears. Before I cut my spears, I want to make sure I measure that they're going to actually fit in the jar. Some of my pickles are actually too tall. So I went ahead and made most of the bigger cucumbers into spears, and then I'm going to take the others and slice those. I'm actually using my kid's knife to make more of like the crinkle cut look. This was kind of a non-sharp knife that the kids first used when they would help me with cooking in the kitchen. I really like that the blade's kind of thick so I can make sure they're the same size each time I cut. All right, so I'm gonna let those salted pickles kind of sit aside while I'm getting my other ingredients all ready. I'm going to start with refrigerator pickles, so I am going to use the 2 salted variety. I just kind of wrote a note for myself. I'm trying to do 3 at once. If you haven't realized, I'm kind of a type A personality person. I really prefer things organized. It makes my life easier. All right, so now that our pickles are soaking in that salt, I'm going to get the liquid ready for making the refrigerator pickles. So this is pickle number 1. I am going to add 4 cups of unchlorinated water to a pot. I actually prefer to use my well water. I'm gonna add 2 cups of white vinegar and 1 tablespoon of canning pickling salt. So I'm gonna bring that to a boil while I check on my cucumbers that have been sitting for a little while. So the cucumbers I'm using have been sitting for about half an hour, and I'm already getting some liquid at the bottom of my bowl. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to use my strainer just to get that liquid off, and then I'm gonna rinse the salt off because I don't want them to be too salty. So the next step is for all my pickles, regardless if I am fermenting them, making them in the fridge, or canning them, I am going to add ice to my pickles to get them as cold as I possibly can, and I'm gonna put them in the fridge until I'm ready to use them. All right, it's time to pack my jars for my refrigerator pickles. What I love about refrigerator pickles is I can use a jar, a container, anything I want to. It doesn't really matter. So I am going to use one of my fun jars today, and I'm also going to use just some regular pints. And these tops I'm using obviously aren't canning tops, they're plastic, and these are just ones I saved off some containers from some other jars that happen to fit, and I use these a lot for dry storage, and I'm also going to be using these for my refrigerator pickles. I think the amount I'm going to make is going to fill about 2 of these pint jars and then 1 of these larger jars. I'm really excited because this one has a wide mouth, so it'll be really easy to get pickles out of there. I'm using 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper in each of these smaller jars, and 1/2 teaspoon in the larger jar. If you're worried it'll be too spicy, you can go a little less. If you're worried it won't be spicy enough, add a little more. I'm using yellow mustard seed, and I'm adding 1/8 teaspoon to these small jars. And 1/4 teaspoon to the large jar. I like to use fresh garlic bulbs, and I'm going to add 1 clove to these small jars and 2 cloves to the larger jar. Next, I'm going to be adding some fresh dill. I purchased mine from a local farmer's market because ours didn't come in time. I consider this to be 1 head of dill. I'm going to add either 2 small ones of these to the little jars or 1 large one. If you have to, like me, you might even want to snip off the top. I'm going to add 2 of the larger heads to the big jar. So a lot of the things I choose to do with my pickles, salt them, cut off the blossom end, put ice over them, are to keep them crunchy. When I first started making pickles, almost every recipe I used called for something called alum, which is a powdered substance. And I used to use it and I really wasn't sure what it was. And so I kind of did some research and found that alum is the same thing they add to some baking powders. I started thinking about it and I'm like, oh, when I buy baking powder, it either says, maybe it just says baking powder, and then some say without aluminum. And I was like, alum, aluminum, ooh. I always would just automatically buy the baking powder without aluminum because it sounded bad, right? And then I started reading about it and understanding that that was something they added to the baking powder to get it to be heat activated. And anyways, it's not necessary, and I don't buy that baking powder. There's no really reason to, being we have other options. And so I learned a lot more about why I would use alum. I learned that it's a neurotoxin, which means it like attacks your nervous system. And I really don't feel comfortable putting that in food I'm making, especially when I'm trying to make healthier food for my family. So I wanted to find more ways that I could can and make pickles and have them be crunchy, because there's nothing worse than getting all done with your pickles and then being mush. And we have had years where we've made entire batches of pickles and they were mush because I didn't want to use the alum. So now I know there are lots of things that have tannin in them, and tannin is something that makes pickles crunchy. And there are so many options of things you can add for tannin. Bay leaves is one that you can find in the store. It's readily available. I have not tried it, so I don't know what kind of flavor it would give your pickles. Another one is oak leaves. So if you do not spray your lawn and you got a big oak tree, perfect, oak leaves. And then another one is grape leaves, and that's actually what I'm using. I've never actually seen grape leaves readily available in stores where I am. They may be at certain health food stores and such, but I actually have wild grapes growing right on the edge of our garden, and it's a perfect place. I know there are no chemicals are sprayed back there, and I went ahead and, these are from today, they're already kind of wilty. I went ahead and picked some good grape leaves. Just like you would only use good vegetables when you're canning, I'm only using good grape leaves. If they had bug damage, any sort of insects on them, I did not take those. So I tried to find some good size ones. Some are quite small, but others are quite large. So I am going to add either one large grape leaf or 2 small grape leaves to these jars. I'll probably add a little extra to this big one, just to give some extra tannins, which help crisp up the pickles. Tannins are in so many things. Apple cider vinegar is one, and I'm going to be using that in my fermented pickles. Even cinnamon has tannins in it. So there's recipes with cinnamon in it. I think cumin and thyme actually have tannins in them, so you can use them. And there are spice blends that include some of these things to help. And as far as liquid, you could also add red wine vinegar, which is made with red grapes, the peels of red grapes, which have tannin in them. So I'm using grape leaves. It's what I've got. It's free. Otherwise, I would probably try bay leaves because they're readily available. I can just grab them from the grocery store. So I went ahead and picked these grape leaves off the vines out back, and I'm going to just kind of pick the stems off. And you can either fold these up and put them in your jar if you'd like, or you can roll them up. Either way, just however you want to get them in there to take up the least amount of room, I guess, is the main purpose. I did freeze some of these grape leaves if I run out. I'll have them when they're not always available. All right, I think we're ready to add our pickles. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and pack my jars. I'm gonna put the spears in these smaller jars, and then I'm going to do some of the pickle slices in the bigger jar. If you tilt the container you're putting them in, you can really shove them in really well. I try to keep them under this lip best I can. If you have wide mouth, just use them. I'm so sad I don't have any. I have so many jars. I even made sure I had everything before the season got here. And for whatever reason, I didn't realize that I'm almost completely out of wide mouth pints. I have a lot of wide mouth quarts, and our family's big, so most things I'll do in a quart, but I really just think smaller batch of pickles is key. Just any trick that's gonna help you have crunchy pickles. All right, I'm gonna put these back in the fridge. The rest are gonna be for canning. Guys, I almost forgot about all that cool fermentation stuff I got. It actually came with a pickle packer or a vegetable tamper where I can push the pickles down and make sure we're not having any spots of air in there. I think I'm gonna fit all of the slices in here, so I will definitely have to make We're gonna have so many cucumbers. I'll definitely have to make more slices for canning because I think they're all gonna fit in the fridge pickle. All right, I think the liquid is ready, so we're gonna put that on top. So our vinegar and water mixture I mixed to boiling and I'm ready to pour it in the jars. I personally like to use a funnel. All right, while my refrigerator pickles are cooling down until I can get them safely in the fridge without breaking them, I'm going to get a start on my canning pickles. And it took me a long time to come up with all the little steps that led to finally having crunchy canned pickles. I say canned, I mean water bathed. I should probably clarify. It's taken me a while to get to this point of having crunchy water bathed pickles. We have a few recipes we love to use refrigerator pickles, canned pickles that I'm not going to be sharing with you, and that's just because they're family members' recipes and I don't feel comfortable sharing someone else's recipe without their permission. So these are recipes I do enjoy making. There are a few others that I do make too. So this canned recipe is pretty similar to the refrigerator pickles. It starts the same. We start by washing the pickles and the grape leaves and a lot of the same ingredients and cut off the blossom end and the vine end of the cucumbers. I like to soak them if I am slicing them in any way in salt and rinse them off, put ice on them, put them in the fridge while I get the other stuff prepped. All right, so first thing I want to do after I've got all those basic steps done for water bathing my pickles, actually I probably should have started this sooner, is get my water bath going. I filled my pot about 3/4 full. I am using a canning pot, which is kind of handy. It comes with a little tray for your jars if you want to use that. You could also use a towel bunched up in the bottom if your jars are not filling the entire container. I forgot my middle burner is broken. Oh, I'm so bummed. Between last season and this, it broke. I should elaborate. The burner itself isn't broken, the knob is, and I don't trust myself to turn it on and be able to successfully turn it off. So I'm just gonna use one of my big burners. I know not everybody has the cool middle burner anyways, and it will work just fine. Again, if you don't have a canning pot like this, you can use any pot, will be just fine. Once you've picked out what jars you're going to use for your water bath canning pickles, you need to make sure to sterilize them. You can do this in your oven at 265 degrees Fahrenheit for about 30 minutes, or you can boil them, whichever method works best for you. All right, so I'm gonna start that brine for these pickles, which is so similar to the refrigerator pickle brine, it's not even funny. I'm gonna add 12 cups of water. I like to use my well water, but you just need to make sure that it is not chlorinated water, so filtered water works fine. I just like my well water. All right, I'm gonna add 6 cups of white vinegar and 3/4 cup of canning pickling salt. I'm gonna get that brine boiling right alongside the water bath. All right, well that's going, it's time to pack my jars. I have a variety of ball, carrot, and mason jars, but it's important that you use actual canning jars. The glass that they are made out of is stronger than some of the other glass, say that you might get spaghetti sauce in from the store. I don't think I mentioned earlier, another great thing you could add with tannin in it to make them crunchy is black tea leaves, if that's something you have on hand. You might add a little caffeine kick to your pickles, which is kind of fun. And garlic, I almost forgot garlic. So I've got the garlic all in the jars, and I could add a little onion to each one. I decided not to just because I was on my last onion. Otherwise, I prefer to have onion with my pickles. You want to make sure the dill you're using isn't just dill wheat. There should be dill seed or even dill flowers on here. Okay, did this just right. I have just enough for my one fermented jar. It's already dark outside and I don't want to go outside in what is basically the woods to go get more tonight of these. All right, we're ready to add our pickles. I almost forgot all about my lids. My lids that have not been used before, I went ahead and washed them in very hot soapy water and rinsed them off really well, and now I'm letting them dry. When I was a little girl, we always would almost heat these up on the stove in hot water, and they actually recommend you don't do that anymore. Something to do with breaking the seals, I actually don't know for sure. I just tried to follow the manufacturer guidelines, and this is how they say to do it, so that is what I'm doing. Our brine and our water bath are boiling, so it's time to get the brine on these pickles and get them in the hot water bath. I'm going to try to quickly add the hot brine to the jar, leaving about ½ an inch at the top. Let's get these jars in. So I have all the jars in, and I made sure that the water is above the top of the jars. I'm gonna bring them back up to a boil and let it boil for 10 minutes because they were pint jars. If they were quart jars, I would let them boil for 15 minutes. All right, so our water bath pickles are done and ready to come out of the hot water. I am actually missing the tool I like to use to carry these out. I cannot find it. So I need to find that before we get full-blown canning season. I'm using this one in the meantime, which is not the same. All right, Matt came and helped me get the pot moved over out of the way and the jars out. So I'm gonna just carefully take these off and set them to cool. I like to dry off the water on the lids just to avoid as much chance as I can that they'll get rusty. And I'm actually going to let these cool overnight. In the morning, I will go ahead and I will rate what they are on them, and I will remove the rings. Maybe not right away tomorrow morning. I will probably let them sit at least a day before I do that. I never store my canned goods with rings on them because it can make you think something's sealed when it's not, and in fact germs are getting in it and it could get you sick. So I always store without a seal, never stacking our jars. I am so excited that I waited to do the fermented pickles to the end. This is my first time ever fermenting pickles. They may not turn out, but I have done a lot of research, a lot of reading, and I've adapted a couple of recipes from ones that looked really good, like they would taste good, along with some tips and tricks to help them be crunchy and delicious, and I'm hoping this all works out. So let's get them made. It looks really fun and easy. A lot of the ingredients are the same, but I don't need to boil them on the stove, so I'm kind of excited about that. It called for 3 to 4 cloves of garlic for 1 quart jar, and I'm using 3 cloves, but one of them is quite small. I'm adding 2 heads of dill. I really like dill flavor, so I'm hoping this helps give it some good flavor. And I'm adding that gigantic grape leaf that I had left. All right, let's pack this jar. I'm not adding any of the black peppercorns or the mustard seed. I just want to see how fermenting goes first. Could probably fit 4 or 5 more pickles, but I don't have them, so hoping this works well. All right, the next ingredients look really easy. I'm choosing to use apple cider vinegar in this to keep the pickles crunchy. I'm a little nervous it's gonna give them too strong of a flavor, but the suggestions were to use hot apple cider vinegar for about half of the liquid. And then it says to fill the rest of the way with water. Filtered water. I really want to use my tap water. I'm going to follow the directions and use the filtered water. Then the next step is to make sure the pickles stay under the liquid. They already are, but I'm adding this glass weight. I think they're called fermentation weights. The point is just to hold it under the liquid, which it's doing. I'm sure you could use just a heavy rock. All right, you guys, I totally messed up. I'm making this and I'm like, something seems to be missing. So I just took a moment to look at the recipe and realized I forgot to add salt. Normally I'm used to adding salt to the brine, and this called for salt being added to the bottom with the dill and the spices and such. So, oops. I'm gonna add it to the top and hope for the best. It's a tablespoon of salt. I am using pink Himalayan salt. All right, so the next thing I'm gonna add is a lid. And from what I'm understanding, for fermenting, you need to burp your pickles or whatever you're fermenting daily, I believe. I'm new to this, so let me know down below if I've got this all wrong. But I actually purchased in that kit these lids so that the point of these is so that I don't have to do that. They already have a built-in little hole in the top, and maybe I just squeeze it daily. I'm not sure. And they call that burping. This is all very new to me, so I'm gonna go ahead and put this on the top. And the burping is actually important because it keeps it from exploding, because there's gonna be so many gases being built up in here fermenting the pickles. And so this is actually gonna sit on my counter, which is different from those refrigerator pickles. So I'm gonna set this on the counter for a few days, and I'm just gonna keep doing that. And yeah, I think I taste it to figure out if it goes in the fridge. I'll fill you in. Made 8 little pints of canned pickles. I made 2 pints and I think it's just shy of a quart size jar of refrigerator pickles, and then I made 1 quart of fermented pickles. Yeah, so fun. I think I will probably try it. I will make all 3 of these recipes again if I like the fermented pickles. I've tried the other ones, so I know I'll make them again. But I probably won't ever do it all again in one day. This was a lot for one day. The canned pickles should be ready to eat in about 6 weeks. I think they say canned pickles last about 6 months. I do keep mine longer if I can, if we don't eat them all before then. My refrigerator pickles should be ready to eat in about 2 weeks. And I believe my fermented pickles are going to be the first ones ready in less than a week. So I'm excited to see how all these taste, see if I have a favorite. I probably will put this video up before we ever get to the canned pickles. And let me know down below, what's your favorite? Canned, refrigerated, or fermented? So our pickles are finally done. Our refrigerator pickles, our hot water bath pickles, and our fermented pickles. I'm excited to see which one we like the best. I have a feeling we'll like them all because we love pickles. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Click that subscribe button down below. Glad you got to see me again. Bye. So the first thing I did when I put on the pickle pipe, it's called, this little thing at the top, was I pinched it, and then I was trying to find in the book that came with it some information about, like, was I supposed to do this every day? Like, I thought the point of having it, I didn't have to do anything. And this little teeny piece of paper slipped out and it said the pickle pipe, and it said we do not recommend ever touching it, and what it actually does is it pushes the carbon dioxide out without letting oxygen in. That was very interesting. So I won't touch it again, and hopefully our pickles turn out great. All right, so I just wanted to give you a quick update about the fermented pickles and what we thought. It has been about a week since I made these pickles, and we have been eating them. We've eaten about half the jar or so, and we don't like them. The majority of our family does not like them. Lydia likes them. So this is Lydia's pickle jar, and when we're having pickles, she's getting about 1 a day because the rest of us don't want to eat them. They're way too strong in apple cider vinegar, and I will definitely ferment pickles again. I will try it again. I'm not going to give up, but I am not using this recipe. I'm not linking it down below in the description. I don't think most people will be a fan of it. It was too strong. So I would either use less apple cider vinegar or maybe just mix it all together and hope they still are crunchy. It's only been a week, and usually we haven't even broken into our refrigerator pickles yet, but we just couldn't help it. They have been so good. So we've eaten quite a bit of this jar already. Haven't broken into our canned pickles yet. We'll wait a while because they're not going to be ready yet. But I love that these are going to be on the shelf and ready for us when we are ready for some pickles. Again, thanks for watching. Bye guys.